Hello, welcome to this is going to be a video tutorial for how to use Krita for beginners. I'm going to go through everything that I consider to be essential for using this program, and hopefully once you finish watching this, you're going to be well on your way to making some kick-ass artwork, okay? So first thing we're going to do, we're just going to make a new file. When you click that though, you're going to see the screen here. So this is pretty simple, it's just the pixel data, but down here it says resolution. What is that? The resolution, this is irrelevant for people who don't plan to print their artwork. But if you do, then this is important. It says pixels per inch here, that's PPI. Some other programs, they might call it DPI, which is the same thing. It says dot per inch. So let's say your file is 3000 by 3000 pixels and you have 300 PPI, then when you print it, it's going to be 10 inches by 10 inches, right? So sometimes you might work for someone and they're going to demand that you have a file that is, say, an 18 by 12 inches poster in 300 PPI. So it gets a bit annoying because you have to like do the math, like what's 300 times 18, that kind of stuff. I mean, I never made it past grade 7. I can't do math, but thankfully you can just change the units here. So you can just change these to inches and you can make it 18 by 12. And you can see the program actually does the math for you down here. So thank God for that. And you can just create a file and you're going to be ready to start. Okay, so before you actually start drawing, you should already have noticed that my layout is like completely different from yours. And that's because you can actually move these things around. Um, so let's say I want to block my own view with the color picker. I can do that. I can move this wherever I want. And when you move these dockers to like the top or the side, the bottom, it kind of sticks to it. Like it's kind of like magnetic. While we're on the color picker, if your color picker doesn't look like this, I'm gonna recommend that you change it to this. Okay, so the way you do it would be just click this little thing here. Make sure this one says HSV, which is hue saturation value, and then you pick the square. This square, not this one, like this one. I mean, you can use different ones too if you want. Like, you can use the triangle. I'm not gonna judge you. Like, it's fine to be a fucking pussy, but I'm gonna recommend the circle, because fuck the triangle. And then I'm gonna direct your attention to this overview here, which I think is not there by default. I think you have to actually turn it on manually. This is just like a little preview of your canvas. So if you make some strokes here, you can see it's gonna update over here. It's really useful, but I don't think it's there when you just started. So the way you turn it on is if you go to settings, Dockers, and then overview right here. You just turn this on and it's gonna pop out somewhere and then you can move it wherever you want. So these things here, I consider all of them to be essential. So make sure you have them. So you got the brushes here, so it's just the brushes, and then the overview that you just turned on. These are your tools. I don't think you can turn that off. You got the color picker. They got the tool options here. So this thing is a little tricky. I'll get back to it at the end of the video. Kind of what this is supposed to be for. It's really useful, so remember it. Make sure you find this. I don't know where it's supposed to be from like default. And then you need your layer windows, of course. Alright, now let's look at the brushes. So we got a bunch of default brushes over here. They all kind of, most of them are like quite similar. They just have different behaviors and textures. So you can just try different ones out. Like say this one has kind of a, I don't know what you would call it. It's just just has some texture to it. But excuse me. But if you keep scrolling down, you're gonna find these ones that are like color coded purple. So what these are, they are wet brushes basically. So what they do is if you press hard, they're going to be very opaque, but if you press lightly, they kind of act like a smudge. So if you pick a different color, you can see it. Like I press hard, it's very opaque. Press light, I can kind of smudge with it. So these are pretty cool. You can make entire paintings with just these ones. So give them a try. It's really nice. And then if you keep scrolling down, you're gonna find these ones that are color coded white. These are smudge brushes, so they don't carry any color on their own. They just kind of smudge things like this. That's all they do. And then you'll find there's also a weird one. There's like this one with all the squares on it. I call this the porn brush. What it does is basically you can like censor things with it. So like, let me see. Let me show you. Like you can kind of do stuff like this, and then suddenly it looks really wrong. Yeah, so that's pretty fun. But if you keep going down more, you're gonna find these three brushes. Um, and they're really interesting. So let's start with this one. What this one does is it expand things from like the center of it, like this. Um, but so far the only use I've found for it really is just like you just kind of do this with it. Um, and then you got this one, which is like it's the opposite. You shrink things like this. We don't do that here, so we're gonna ignore this one. But the real important one is really this blue one because it's like a liquify brush. You can like move things like this. Just make sure you don't do it too much because you can see like it gets really fuzzy when you like kind of drag things around too much. But this is really important. Um, Now if you're wondering if we have like real liquify like Photoshop, the answer is yes. If you go to here, if you try to transform something and instead of like moving it around, you right click on it. You can see liquify here, but I'm not gonna press it. I don't recommend you using it because it's like laggy as fuck. Um, but that's kind of the brushes. But let's say you don't like any of these brushes at all. Um, you can actually alter these brushes. So let's say you actually like the texture of this one, but you don't like the way it behaves. You can go up here and just press this right here, this, and it's gonna open up this window, give you all the settings you can mess with. So let's say I want to turn on the flow jitter for this brush, and you can kind of test it out over here. Anytime you change a brush, you're gonna see this icon over here. What this does is it just reverts the brush back to the way it was before you fucked with it. But let's say you do like this one better, you can overwrite this brush, or you can save it as a new one, which is what I usually do, because then you can save this new one and then revert this so you can have both. But let's say you don't like this either, and you want to make your own brush, like just something that is completely your own, you can do that too here. So what you want to do is you want to make a new file that is 500 by 500. Um, it doesn't have to be. This is just, I think, what works the best for me. And you can create your own texture with it. Basically, you can draw anything you want here, and whatever you draw here is going to be used as like the stamp of your brush. So it's just you can just draw something here, and then you can just go to your brush settings, brush tip, predefined, and then I think it's either, is it this one? Yeah, it's this one, right? So you press OK, and I think, yeah, it's gonna be here now. Um, so as you can see, we have made a stamp using this exact thing that we drew, and you can, it's your brush now. And you can save it as your new brush if you like this brush, but I don't like it, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. But that's how you make a new brush, like your own custom brush. But let's say you don't like, not don't like, but you have so many options, right? So you don't know what to do. The few brushes I recommend would just be like the hard round, and then you got like the soft round, and then an airbrush. Like these three brushes, they're like the holy trinity of beginner brushes. You can do like pretty much anything you want with them. There's no limits really. So you can stick with these three because the cool thing about these three is because they have no texture, everything's going to look cohesive compared to if you try to like force texture onto your painting and then it happens to beginners a lot where you try too hard to like put random textures around it just looks like it doesn't belong. If you stick with the round brushes, you won't have that problem. And then one last thing about brushes though is this little button here. This isn't eraser toggle. So um, without turning this on, when this is turned off, your brush is just like this. You turn it on, you turn the brush into an eraser that share the same properties as the brush. So let's say I got this brush here that does this. If I turn it on, it turns into an eraser. So this is really convenient for like drawing stuff. Like if you're drawing like an eye or something, you can adjust things really quickly. This is really useful. So yeah, that's it for the brushes. Let's move on to the next thing, which is blending modes. Okay. All right, so let's talk about blending modes. Let me just get something on the screen real fast so I can explain what blending mode does. So when you make a new layer, every layer has this window here. This is the blending mode of the layer, and you can change it. And there's like 1,000 different blending modes, but only a few are useful really, which are like these ones. I added them to my favorites because I only use these ones. So the first thing I'm gonna look at is multiply, which is a pretty simple one. It darkens things. It darkens everything underneath towards the color that you choose. So I have a red color right now, so it darkens things towards red. If I pick a different color, you can see it has a different effect. So that one's pretty simple. And then next we got overlay. And overlay is a little unique. It can brighten things, but it can also darken things depending on the color you choose. So if you choose a bright color, it's gonna brighten things. But if you choose a dark color, you can darken things. Unlike multiply, multiply can only darken things. It doesn't matter what color you choose. And if you pick white for multiply, nothing happens. And then another one, which is color dodge. So color dodge, I think a lot of people know this one because certain someone likes to use it. But really, you brighten things only. You can only brighten things with it. And kind of gives it some kind of a glow, but you don't want to overuse overlay or color dodge because they do have a tendency to saturate the colors really, really hard. Usually it's just used for like giving something some kind of a glow. So let's say you can kind of use overlay to like give a glow to your characters or something. Color dodge, on the other hand, I would say it's more useful for like special effects basically. So let's say this brush has like lightning power coming out from it, and you can be like, ooh, it's like lightning. Yeah, that's like one way to use this. Um, and then you got a few more. Lighten, which whoops. Basically, what lighten does is your color is only going to show through if it's brighter than the stuff underneath it. So you can see if I paint this blue color onto white, it nothing happens because white is brighter. You can see it only shows up in areas where I'm lightening things. And then darken would be the opposite of that. You can only the color only shows up if you're darkening something, so it's darker than white, so it's showing up. It's not darker than some of these colors, so it's not showing up. And then you got color. Right here it says color. So what color does is it changes the hue of the stuff underneath without changing the values. So let's say I can change this thing to yellow. You can see it keeps the values the same, but I'm changing the color only. So this is what it's for. The main use for this is to give color to like your black and white drawings, because like sometimes you draw something in black and white and then some dude is gonna look over your shoulders and they're like, bro, where's the color, man? Why is it black and white? Where's the color? But this is where you can just like make a color layer, add some color and tell the guy to fuck off. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is gonna be the assistant tool, which is this triangular ruler here. I don't know, it should be somewhere like on this line here, like if you haven't moved your layout yet. So this thing here. So when you look at the tool options, which hopefully you've found by now, you can see depending on what thing you have, what tool you have selected, your tool option changes. So with the regular brush, you have this is like what's it called? It's like that stroke stabilizer thing that helps with your line art. Uh, Try not to turn it on. I usually stay on basic. Weighted is fine. Stabilizer, I think it gets a bit laggy, so I don't recommend it. But here you see it says snap to assistance, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first, let's look at this first. You can see you press this, and you get a bunch of options here. And I want to look at concentric ellipse, parallel ruler, and vanishing point. I'll show you how to use these things because they're really useful. So concentric ellipse is basically how you can draw a perfect ellipse in perspective without having to freehand it, because like trying to freehand an ellipse is pretty painful. So you can see I can make this here, and you can see it's like a guide, and you can kind of do this, but it's really hard to follow, right? But that's where snap to assistance work. Like you can make a perfect ellipse now, and that's really helpful. Another one is the parallel ruler. So let's get rid of this parallel ruler. What this does is you can just make a straight line with this, and you can make a bunch of lines that are parallel to this line that you made. Um, and then you got the best one, which is the vanishing point, where you can just like dot somewhere and it gives you a vanishing point. So this is like a super simple way to set up some kind of a perspective grid. Just like this, and there you go. You have like a perspective grid, like a 2-point perspective, and you can have multiple of these open, right? So let's say if you want, in a 2-point perspective, you also need the verticals. Like boom, you got you got a free perspective guide for you, and you can draw boxes in this. It's really just that easy. Like. I don't know why I'm drawing a box here, but this is how you. This is like a really easy way to set up your perspective. Um, and I think that's about it for what I want to cover overall. Um, Before I leave, I guess I'm gonna cover some of the shortcut keys that are useful. So, to toggle the color picker, you need to press Control. You can see if I hold Control, it turns into a color picker. So I can select white here, select black here, select this here. So it's kind of you kind of need this to blend colors. Um, or sometimes if you're drawing and you're feeling too good about yourself, you can go ahead and press M. That's gonna flip the page, and it's gonna keep your ego in check, show you how shit you really are. Uh, there's too many of these shortcut keys. I'm just gonna put like a bunch of them on the screen that I think are useful, and you can take a screenshot, okay?